Hey you guys, my name is Grace. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to this video and welcome to maybe one of the craziest times in history to either buy a house or sell a house. So my husband and I just recently purchased our first home and we looked for like 4 months. We looked at so many houses and I just started to notice a pattern between the conversations my husband and I had with my parents who were also helping us look for a house and our realtor. There were a couple things that were, I don't want to say red flags because that sounds like really dramatic, but there were a couple things that we saw over and over that kind of like immediately turned us off to pursuing a house, whether just by looking at the listing or actually going and viewing the house itself. And these are pretty... Did you hear that? That was a kitty cat throwing up. It scared me half to death. I thought a demon had just come into the home. Anyway, these are pretty small things. I'm not reinventing the wheel. These are kind of obvious things, but maybe you're a first-time home seller or you haven't sold a home in a long time, or maybe your home has been sitting on the market for a while and you're just like wondering why. These are 5 fairly easy things to just check. Just, you know, do a little self-assessment, maybe get an outside viewer to see if maybe you're falling into one of these categories. And I'm not saying you're not going to sell your home. I'm just saying that it might turn some buyers off initially. So we're going to jump in right now. Okay, so this first one should be fairly self-explanatory, but I think a lot of people think it's not that important, and that is get good photos taken. Now, I have not sold a house myself, so I don't know. I know it's probably expensive. It's an extra expense. I don't know if you set it up or your realtor sets it up. I don't know. But let me just tell you, when you are a buyer and you are on, I'm just going to use Zillow as an example because that's mostly what we used, but there's probably a lot of homes in your area in your price range. And so you have to have something to narrow it down. You can't go and look at every single house in your price range. So let me just tell you, when we were looking at houses, if we looked at a listing that had grainy, dark photos that looked like they were taken on like a Razor phone from 2006, we just didn't bother even going and looking at it. Because not only it just kind of turns you off initially, just aesthetics. We know that aesthetics matter, let's just be real. But also it just makes it feel like the house itself is not really taken care of, which I know is probably stupid and not real. But just again, you're trying to narrow it down. So your mind plays tricks on you and it's like, oh, if they don't care to take good pictures, they probably don't care about their home. So I think taking good pictures is such a worthwhile investment when it comes to selling your house. And then on top of that, when we would, multiple times when we would go look at houses, sometimes the people that did hire a photographer to take photos of their home, the photos made the house look nicer than it was. Like there were so many times that our realtor was like, wow, this living room looked so much bigger in the photos. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that the photography literally does make your house look as good as it possibly can, if not better. So bite the bullet, in my humble opinion, and get good photos taken. Next up, I don't mean to step on any toes when I say this, but if your house has an odor to it, that can really turn people off. And that odor could be smoking, that odor could be other things that you would smoke. That odor could be if you have a lot of animals and litter boxes, things like that. And I'm not, you know, we have 3 pets, so I understand. But we actually went and looked at a house and we were pretty excited about it. We liked the location. The moment we stepped in, it smelled so strongly of smoke. And my family were not smokers, and that's like one of the worst smells to me, at least. I'm sure that doesn't bother some people, but I couldn't get past it. My husband actually really liked the house. The backyard was great. The layout was cool. The living room was great, but I couldn't get past the smell. And on top of that, yeah, we could have like written it into the offer letter that like they're gonna have to pay for $5,000 of fumigation or whatever it's called. But that's not even a guarantee. We could still sign the papers and move in, and it could still, like, bad odors, whether it's smoke or whatever, can like seep into paint and into walls. So I'm not saying that people are just gonna, you know, completely disregard your house, but there's definitely going to be a certain clientele, us included, that we did just write off the house. We're like, we love this house, but not enough to have to deal with the possibility of issues down the line with a strong smell. And no, I don't mean to offend anyone or make anyone uncomfortable, but it might be worth bringing in a third party to just say like, hey, can you walk in my house and smell it? And does it smell bad? And if it does, start working towards, you know, eradicating a bad smell, because a bad smell is really hard to get past as a buyer. Next up is less is more when it comes to decor. I fully don't believe in the old adage where like, oh, if you're gonna paint your house or you're gonna adjust it somehow, like think about future buyers. Like, no, this is your house, this is your temple, like it should reflect you and make you happy because you're living in it. However, when you go to sell it, I don't think you have to paint all the walls beige or, you know, get rid of all the personality. But as someone who, we looked at so many houses, I could walk into a house that had a totally different design style than me, but still picture myself living there. The ones that were really hard to picture myself living in were the ones that had a lot of clutter, like so many knickknacks everywhere, or like crazy, you know, disorganized patterns, or like, you know, super, I don't even want to say maximalist because that can be done really well, but like just overwhelmingly packed. And I'm not saying hoarder level, I'm just saying like, I think it would have served that seller if they had just gone through and boxed up some of their items and put it in a closet. And I know you have to live in your house and blah, 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 but hopefully you're gonna sell your house within, you know, a month or two, and you can probably live without some of that clutter for a couple of months. And I think as a buyer, it just made it so much easier to picture myself living in a house. We looked at a house that we actually put an offer in, and it was so not our style. It was blue, blue, blue. It was very beachy. That's not me. But because it was styled nicely, I could still picture like, oh my, I wouldn't have this room be blue, I would have it be green, but I could picture it. Whereas when we went into houses that were just overwhelmingly cluttered, is the best word I can think to use to describe it, that was so hard to picture myself living there because it wasn't my style, also wasn't my stuff, and that's just not the kind of house I'm going to have. I'm more of a minimalist. So maybe that's just me, but it was just hard to picture myself living in that house versus more sparsely decorated homes. And again, just box some stuff up when you're going to sell. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it. Just box it up, put it in a closet. Nobody's gonna be none the wiser. Okay, this next one. This is a little bit hard to describe, and I'm gonna specifically talk about Zillow because again, that's what we use, and I think that's what a lot of people use. I don't even know if like Realtor.com or any of those even have this option, but you know how on Zillow they'll have a Zestimate of your house, which is the Zillow estimate of how much it's worth. And a lot of times it's wrong, it's not accurate. However, as a seller, when you or your realtor put up your listing, you can choose whether to show this estimate or hide this estimate. Let me just tell you, as a buyer, I saw it as a major red flag when it was hidden. I know that this estimate is not necessarily going to be very accurate, so that's not really going to sway too much whether or not I'm going to go look at your house or put in an offer, because I know this estimate doesn't have much weight to it, but it just set off like little red flags when it was hidden. And let me give you an example. That same house that I talked about, we put an offer in. We put an offer in on that house. We gave a very fair offer, like very fair. And they had this estimate hidden. We got a counter offer from them that was super bizarre, really weird, weirdly worded. Our realtor she started putting up red flags. And then the fact that they had the Zestimate hidden, it made it really feel like this house is worth a whole lot less than they're asking, and they're hiding something. We can't confirm that. We didn't end up with that house, obviously, but it just, and it's hard to describe unless you knew the whole situation, but it just gave us the ick. And so their wordage and not having this estimate just made it feel like this house is actually worth like probably $40,000 less than we're offering, and yet they're still weird about it. Anyway, so for going forward, I would suggest showing this estimate. It just adds a level of trust between the seller and the buyer, I think. It adds a level of transparency, of honesty, and we all know that buying houses is really kind of icky right now, and any kind of trust or kinship you can feel with another person that's also going through this means a lot. So I don't know if that really makes sense how I'm describing this, but just show this estimate, just do it. And then finally, this is such a small thing, but it makes such a huge difference. Leave a note. Leave a note on your counter or on the table for the person coming to view your house. You don't have to write a new note every single time. You can reuse that note, baby. It's fine. But there was another house that we absolutely loved. I'm so glad we didn't end up with that house because we're so happy with our house. But it was a beautiful house and we loved it so much. We walked in and there was a note from the homeowner. And it was just such a sweet note because she talked about how much she loved her house and how well she had taken care of her house, which was very evident. And then she described why she was moving. Like, she didn't want to leave the house, but she was moving across the state to be near her daughter. And it was all really sweet. But it just immediately connected, just like I was saying with the Zestimate, like, have some sort of trust there. It immediately made you feel like you were buying a home from your friend. Instead of looking at a house, you were looking at a home, which really made a huge difference. And it just, it felt warm and it made a huge impact. So if you are on the journey of trying to sell your house, write up a little note. Say like a couple good memories that you have in this house, or, you know, things that are your pride and joy about your house, or, you know, how you want to pass the legacy on of family and things like that. Write just a sweet little paragraph, and I think that's gonna make a huge, huge difference in your home selling journey. So there you go. Those are my 5 things. I would love to hear your own experience. Do you have any tips for home buyers, home sellers? This is a crazy, crazy time to be in the home buying, home selling sphere. So let's all help each other out. Speaking of home selling, home buying, because my husband and I just bought our home, we are doing quite a few renovations. And so we are elbows deep in filming a lot of the home reno kind of things for you guys. We're not far enough along to make videos for you yet, but they're coming. So if you're interested in that, I would love if you would consider subscribing and coming along on that journey. I think our house is really unique. And then on top of that, I think our home style, like my home decor style, is kind of unique. It's not cookie cutter. So I think hopefully it'll be fun for some people to go on that journey with us. So I would love it if you would consider subscribing. And again, comment down below your own tips for those out there home buying and home selling. It is rough out there, y'all, but it is what it is. Okay, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye.